Hello everyone. Let's review shlokas 174 and 175 in Lalitha Sahasranamam. Vyomakeśī vimānasthā vajriṇī vāmakeśvarī pañchayaGnYapriyā preta mañchādhiśāyinī pañchamī pañchabhūteśī saṅkhyopachāriṇī śāśvatī śāśvataiśvaryā śarmadā śambhumohinī. Let's take a look at the meanings of the namas in these two shlokas. The first nama here is vyomakeśī. Vyoma means either or space or the region in the sky that's beyond the clouds. So vyoma is sky or ether. Keśī means hair. So vyomakeśī means one who has either as her hair. So we've all heard of the Vishvarupam. The Vishvarupam is the gross form of the god or goddess, which includes all the gross objects in the universe. So it is the assimilation of all the objects in the universe. That's why we say that it has multiple hands, multiple eyes, etc. So it is a huge form. And it is generally said that the sun and the moon are the eyes of that Vishvarupam, the directions, the ears of that Vishvarupam. Like that, the hair is the sky or ether, the region beyond the clouds. That's what is considered to be the hair of that Vishvarupa. So, Shiva is called as Vyomakesha and Shakti is called as Vyomakeśī. So, someone who has the ether as her hair. Vimānasthā. Vimānasthā can be split. The first split is Vimāna and Stha. Vimanam, as we all know, is an aeroplane or a celestial car. So, all the devas and even Lalitha, they all have their own chariot. So, Lalitha Ambika's chariot is called as Chakraraja. And we've also seen Kiri Chakra, Keya Chakra, all of those are also present. So, stha means residing in or present in or standing in. So, one way to look at it is she is in her chariot called Chakraraja. So, that can be one meaning. And interestingly, it looks like these chariots don't have a set capacity. They can keep expanding. How many ever people come, it can actually take it. So, vimānasthā. That's one way to look at it. Another way to split this is vimānasthā. Vima means dimension in Sanskrit. Ana means without or it is a negation. Stha means residing in or permeating. So, in that context, it means that she is without dimensions or she is pervading the entire universe without any dimension, which means that she is immeasurable. She is just everything. So, that is another way to look at it. Next nama here is vajriṇī. Vajram in Sanskrit is lightning. So, vajriṇī, we can think of it as lightning like. So, anytime we refer to light, it means the knowledge. And therefore, lightning like is a flash of lightning, which is the supreme consciousness or the embodiment of the highest knowledge. So, vajriṇī is lightning like. That is one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is Vajram is also thunderbolt. And so she is like that thunderbolt, right? So there is a ayudam that's made of Vajram, Vajrayudha. And that Vajrayudha is capable of destroying anything. There is nothing that will be skipped when the Vajrayudam is used. Similarly, she is like that thunderbolt or she is like that Vajrayudam where when she comes, then this Maya cannot stay and therefore she completely eliminates the diseases of our body and mind and therefore shows us the right path. So in that she is Vajriṇī. Another way to look at it is the one who has Vajrayudha, that is Indra, and as Vajriṇī she is Indra's Shakti. So you can think of her as Indrani or Shachi Devi, or we can also think of her as Mahendri, who is one of the Ashtamatrikas. So that is also another meaning. The next nama here is vāmakeśvarī. The split is vāmakeśvarī. Vāmaka means left. Ishvari means the goddess. So one way to look at vāmakeśvarī is the goddess who is on the left. And in the Shiva and Shakti as Ardhanarishvara, Shakti is on the left. So the goddess who's on the left. That is one way to interpret it. Another way to look at it is vāmakeśvarī. There is many paths to pursue Lalitambika and therefore the enlightenment. And there is a internal path like Samayachara, and then also the right-handed path like Dakshinachara. And there are also left-handed paths which are called as Vamachara or Kaulachara. And so she is the goddess of those who follow the Vama path, Vamachara path. So that is another way to look at it. And also in the Srividya worship, in this path, Srividya tradition, there are 64 tantras that are revered. And Vāmakeśvara Tantram is something that was composed by Shiva himself, and it is supposed to be considered as the 65th Tantra. And it is very special, and it talks about how to internalize Devi. And therefore, she is the one who is worshipped, or she is the one who is celebrated in the Vāmakeśvara Tantram. That is another way to look at it. The next nama here is pañchayaGnYapriyā, which is split as pañchayaGnYapriyā. Pancha is the number 5. Yajñam means a sacrifice, a ritual that is conducted with fire, in which offerings are provided. Priya means fond of. So pañchayaGnYapriyā means she is fond of the 5 yajñas. That's what it means, the 5 rituals that are conducted with fire. So what are these 5 yajñas? So if you look at our scriptures, there is Shruti and Smriti. Shruti means Vedas, and they show a certain path. And there is Smriti, which is all the Puranas and all the other things which are followed. The Shrutis have a few yajñas that are considered sacred, and there are 5 of them. Today we'll look at what the Smritis say are the 5 yajñas. So whether it is Smriti or Shruti, we all know what is the purpose of this yajña. We have discussed this before. The yajña is a way to willingly offer something that is ours to others. That's why a big part of that yajña is the ahuti, where we take something that's ours and then we offer it into the fire. And typically, when we give something to other people, we tend to think highly of ourselves, right? So we gave and the other person received. Whereas if you see in yajña, the whole idea is to let go of something that's yours, but do that in a humble way. So we are giving this in a very submissive way we are offering. So that's why we are offering it to the gods, and in a humble way to say, this is no longer mine, now this is yours. So yajñas, the main point here, they try to do 2 things. Let go of what's yours. That's a practice, because then we can let go of attachment, etc. And the second thing is, when you let go, not build on your ego, but rather become humble. So that's what the yajñas are trying to do. And our Smritis say that there are 5 such yajñas. So the first one is called as Deva Yajña. Deva Yajña is something that is done to give our thanks to the Devas. If you see, the Devas are responsible for the working conditions in the universe. So if there is no rain, if the soil is not fertile, if the earth is not giving us all these crops, etc., then human life cannot sustain. Therefore, Deva Yajña is the thanks to all these Devas for giving us everything that we are able to nourish ourselves with, sustain our life with. So you might have all heard, even in Krishna's story, it will come. They all conduct a yajna for Indra. They celebrate Indra as a thanks. So there is lots of these things that happen. Then there is Pitru Yajna. So Pitrus are ancestors, people who came several generations before us. So Pitru Yajna is done to give our thanks to our ancestors, to respect them, to celebrate them. And if you see, everything we are today, the flesh, the blood, the body, everything came from our ancestors. And those ancestors are people who worked hard in their life to take care of their children and their future generation, and a lot of us today are enjoying the results of that, and therefore we all owe our debt to our ancestors, and therefore we do pitru yajna. Shraddha is a very common way of doing that. Then the third type of yajna is called as Brahma yajna, sometimes also called as Rishi yajna. So Brahma anytime means knowledge, and therefore the yajna is to honor all these rishis who have heard sacred things or who found ways to achieve that enlightenment, or at the minimum live a stress-free life or a good life that allows for us to reduce the anxiety levels. And they have offered us so many things, and therefore Rishi yajna or Brahma yajna celebrates all those rishis and gives thanks to them. Then there is the Manusha yajna. Manusha yajna is to give thanks to our other human beings. So this could be, a lot of people used to have this as a ritual. They will not eat unless and until they feed a guest. It's called as Atiti Bhojanam or Atiti Yajnam. So when we give that food to the Atiti, it is not as if, hey, you come to my house, I'm feeding you. It is more like the God himself is coming in the form of Atiti and taking what we are giving. So that is how it is lived. That's why we say Atiti Devo Bhava. So it's with humility we offer that food to Atiti. So feeding other people or even other things that are of service to mankind. Building hospitals, building places to stay, or ponds, etc. Whatever is helping other human beings is called as Manusha Yajna. And then the last one is called as Bhuta Yajna. Bhuta Yajna is all those things that indirectly support us, animals, etc. Everything that indirectly supports our life. So for example, if the bees would not spread the pollen, then there is no way of getting flowers or fruits, right? And if you look at the earthworm makes the soil fertile, and that's why we are able to grow all these crops. So there is so many other things. The cattle plows the soil, gives us milk. So there are so many animals that help us live our life. Therefore the Bhuta Yajna is giving thanks to that. So she is fond of all of these yajnas, the pañchayaGnyapriyā, because these yajnas teach us to live with gratitude, to acknowledge what we are taking from other people and be thankful for it. And gratitude is the root of joy, and through joy is where we reach enlightenment. So she is fond of these yajnas. The next nama here is pañcha, preta, mañchādhiśāyinī. The split here is pañcha, preta, mañchādhiśāyinī. Pañcha again is 5. Pretam means a body without life. Mancha means platform, and Adhishayini means reclining. So she is reclining, or you can think of it as seated. She is reclining on a platform that is supported by 5 bodies without life. So if you've seen Lalitha Ambika's picture, you will see that she'll be sitting on a throne, and then on the seat of the throne will be Shiva who's lying, and that's called as Sadashiva. And the 4 legs of that throne, you will see that Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra and Ishana will be there. And that's what this Pancha, Preta, Mañchādhiśāyinī is referring to. It is said that Brahma, actually what this means is Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Rudra, Ishana and Sadashiva are like a body without life without her. So she is the essence of life, or she is the life within all of this. And she is the Antaryami. She is the essence within everybody. She is the soul within everything. It's the Jivatma, and we know it's the same as the Paramatma. So she is the Antaryami, the essence within everything in this universe, and that's what that signifies. So for Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, which is Sadashiva and Ishana, it is a great honor to be the leg and seat of her throne. So the pañcha, preta, mañchādhiśāyinī reflects that she is the essence or the life within everything in this universe. And this is also the tatparyam in our Golu. There is a tradition of displaying dolls in steps, and in Tamil Nadu, even in Andhra, they follow all of that. And there, it is believed that all the essence is in that kalasam that we place, and that kalasam is the essence, that is the Shakti. And when everything is condensed in that kalasam, all the other things are standing like dolls. And it is also referenced that Mahishasuramardini actually was formed by collecting all the energies of all the gods, and that's how she took form, and therefore everybody gave energy to her and they were standing like a lifeless body. So that is a similar thought process there. So pancha, preta, mañchādhiśāyinī means that she is the essence of all of these gods. And these are gods, as we know. Brahma is, they're responsible for the 5 jobs that God is supposed to do. Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the sustainer or the preserver, Rudra is the one who destroys evil, and Ishana is the one who decides when to put the veil of Maya and when to lift the veil of Maya. So that is the Ishana's job. It's called as Tirodhanam. And then lastly, Sadashiva. And Sadashiva is responsible for Anugraham, which is blessing. The next nama here is Pañchamī. Pañcha, as we all know, is 5, and pañchamī means 5th. There are several ways to look at pañchamī. One way to look at it is, in the Ashtamatrikas, pañchamī is Varahi. And Varahi is the commander-in-chief of Lalitambika. So pañchamī references Varahi. That is one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is, we just saw there are 5 jobs that gods do, and those are creation, sustaining, destruction of evil, lifting or putting the veil of Maya, and finally blessing, Anugraham. The 5th job is Anugraham, which is done by Sadashiva. So as Pañchamī, she is the wife of Sadashiva, and therefore she is someone who blesses us all. That's another way to look at it. Another way to look at it, if we go a little bit deeper, is that as human beings, we are all used to 3 states of consciousness, which is the waking state, the dreaming state, and the deep sleep state. These are all 3 states we frequently experience. But there are also 2 other stages of consciousness, and the 4th state is called as Turiya. And in the Turiya state, someone can willingly get into that deep sleep state. With consciousness can be able to get into the deep sleep state. But even there, sometimes it's possible that you don't know your experience in that state. And then there is a 5th state called Turiya Atita. And Turiya Atita, where the person is willingly in that deep sleep state, but is also able to register what's happening there, be aware of what's happening there. So such a person is called as an enlightened person, because then their interaction with the world is actually very much informed. While they are interacting with the world, they are able to see everything as one, and they understand the underlying oneness between everything. So that person is an enlightened person. So Pañchamī, she is in that enlightened state, and she is the Turiya Atita state, and she is in the Turiya Atita state. So that is another way to look at it. The next nama here is pañchabhūteśī. Pañchabhūteśī. Pancha again is 5. Bhutam here means all the elements. Ishi means ruler. So she is the ruler of the 5 elements. As we all know, sky, air, water, etc. Those are all the 5 elements. So she is the ruler of the 5 elements. The next nama here is Pancha saṅkhyopachāriṇī. Pancha saṅkhyopachāriṇī is how this is split. Pancha means 5. Sankhya means count or number. Upachāriṇī means she is worshipped by. Upacharam generally is making someone feel comfortable. So when we do the puja, we call it as upacharam. So she is someone who is worshipped using 5 things, or who is revered using 5 things. And what are they? The Pancha Upachara Puja usually consists of pushpam and then sandanam and kumkumam and then dhupam, deepam and naivedyam. So she is worshipped using the pañcha puja. Śāśvatī is the next nama here. Śāśvatam, as many of us know, is considered as eternal, forever, always living. So she is eternal, śāśvatī. That's another way. Another way to look at it is śāśvatam is also means constant, and therefore she is constantly worshipped is another way to look at it. śāśvataiśvaryā is the next nama here. śāśvataiśvaryā, that's how it splits. Śāśvatam, as we already saw, is eternal. Aishvarya can be looked in two different ways. Aishwaryam is also means sovereign, like queen. So śāśvataiśvaryā means she is the queen eternally because she is the queen of the universe. So that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is Aishwaryam means wealth, but it doesn't mean actually the riches, but we know the eternal wealth is nothing other than knowledge and prosperity, being free from diseases of body and mind. So you can think of it as health. So knowledge and prosperity, living our lives very well. So she is that eternal wealth. Śarmadā is the next nama here. Śarma means happiness. Da means one who bestows. So śarmadā means one who bestows happiness. Śambhumohinī. So the split is Shambhu and Mohini. Shambhu, as we all know, is Shiva. So Shambhu is split as Sham and Bhu. Sham means happiness. Bhu means to create. One meaning of Bhu could be to create. So he is Shambhu, one who creates happiness. That's why we also call him Shankara. So he creates happiness for us. And Shiva is a generous god, and especially in his form as Shambhu, he is very willing to give us anything that makes us happy. So that's one way to look at it. Another meaning of Bhu is also source. So Shambhu means he is the source of happiness. So we have all seen, Shiva in the yogic posture. He looks serene and so calm, and he is the source of joy. He's the source of bliss. So when people can attain Shiva, that means they reach that awakened state or enlightened state. So Shambhu here represents Shiva. Mohini. Mohini can be looked at many different ways. One way we all know Mohini is a female form of Vishnu. But mostly Mohini was someone who enchants, right? Who's charming. So Śambhumohinī can be thought of as one who chants Shiva. So that way Shiva is also always thinking about her. That is one way to look at it. Another way to think about it is Śambhumohinī. Mohini is someone who enchants or who captures our attention in a way that we cannot think about anything else. So when we worship Lalitha, she decides to capture our attention. And what purpose does she create that infatuation for within us? So that we can get to a source of happiness. That's another way to look at it. Of course, as Śambhumohinī, she is also the one who distracts us from our source of happiness. Within all of us, there is happiness already. But it is the Maya that is making us forget who we are, and therefore we are getting distracted with the worldly objects. So as Śambhumohinī, she is the one who distracts us from all our worldly, eternal happiness and moves us into this worldly matters. But she is also the same person who can then, if we worship her, if we continue in this path of sadhana, then she is the one who also occupies our mind in a way that we can't think beyond her, and therefore she takes us to the source of happiness. So those are two ways to look at Śambhumohinī. And also Shambhu has many other meanings we can look at it. Shambhu is also thought of as Sa Amba. So when Shiva is with Parvati, then it is also called as Shambhu. That is one way to look at it. Another meaning of Shambhu is also Swayambhu. So Swayambhu means one that created itself, so automatically manifested. So that is another way. That was not born or not made, it just came into existence. So that is another way to look at Shambhu. And also with Mohini, we briefly said Mohini is Vishnu's female form. Actually, there is something behind that Mohini. So when Vishnu, they did the Samudra Manthan, right? So they were churning the milk ocean and several things came about. And ideally, the quest was for that immortality, that nectar, the Amritam that they wanted. When the Amritam came out, it became a chaos. Until then, they said, okay, you take one turn, I'll take one turn. So Devas took one turn, Asuras took another turn. But the moment the Amritam was found, that's it. It was all chaos. Everybody was like, I want the Amritam, I want the Amritam. At that time, somebody had to balance all of this, and at that time, war was not the strategy. And therefore, Vishnu was thinking how to somehow solve this. And he was praying to Parvati, Tripura Sundari. And as he was praying and praying, he was so in tune with her that he became like her. So it is said that the beauty of Mohini came from her, from Shakti. That's why he was so beautiful in that particular form. And that's why it's also said that Hariharan, Ayyappa, is a son of Shiva and Vishnu in the Mohini form. And Shiva is only attracted to Shakti. And the reason then we have it there is because in Mohini form, Vishnu was a form of Tripura Sundari. So you can say that Mohini represents something very important in the sadhana as we continue to focus, and that is the reason for worshipping God in the temple or creating all these stories about God. Because the more we are aligned to somebody, we start to emulate those characteristics, and the characteristics of gods are always extremely good. And that is one way. And if we are good people, if we are kind people, we are bound to be happy. So kind people are happy, happy people are kind, and that is the reason. So Mohini also represents a state where it is completely merging with that one ultimate reality. So those are many meanings of Śambhumohinī. With that, we have looked at all the meanings of all the namas. Let's look at a short story related to Śambhumohinī today. There was a sage called Śilādā, and this was a extremely powerful sage, and he had done a lot of penance. And sage Śilādā was not married, he was a brahmachari. And sage Śilādā's father was a little bit worried, because generally it is considered that the duty of a son is to produce the next generation. They have to have a son. That's when they take care of the debt that's owed to the ancestors. So everybody must have a son. That's one thing. And then it's also considered that the ancestors will not find a place in heaven if they do not have, if their generation does not continue. So sage Śilādā's father was very worried that his son has not married, and therefore his generation is going to end with that, and therefore he will not find a place in heaven. So he was actually feeling bad, and he shared that with sage Śilādā. And then sage Śilādā, obviously being an enlightened person, being a wise person, he completely realized that no matter what path that he is taking, he is supposed to take care of the debt that is owed to his father, and therefore he has to have a son. But he is not very interested in getting married. So sage Śilādā thought that he would undertake a penance so that he can have a son. So he went ahead and started praying towards Indra. And then he did penance for many years, and Indra was very pleased with sage Śilādā's penance, and therefore he appeared. And sage Śilādā was very happy. He bowed to Indra, and then Indra said, I'm very happy with your penance. Tell me, what boon do you want? I'm willing to give you anything that you ask for. And sage Śilādā said, Indra, please bless me with a son. And so Indra said, oh, totally fine. You choose a woman of your liking. I'll bless you. You will get a very good son. And then sage Śilādā said, actually, that's where the problem is. I do not want to marry. So I want to have a son who's not born from the womb. It is called as Ayonija. So I just want a son to manifest. And then now Indra was taken aback. He said, hey, wait a minute. I'm not able to give you boons like that. And in fact, I'll tell you the truth. Even Brahma and Vishnu cannot give you such boons. It is not possible to have life without a womb. There is a certain rule for creation to happen, and that's how it needs to happen. And somebody cannot just manifest. So it's not possible. Now, Sage Shilada is feeling very sad. He's like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? And then looking at Sage Shilada, Indra gives a suggestion. Says, there's only one person in this world who can give you something like this, and he is Shambhu. So you can go ask Shambhu if that is possible. But know that it's not very easy to please him, and you would have to undertake a severe penance. And if he's pleased with you, maybe he can grant you what you're looking for. So then Sage Shilada now got away. So he immediately said, okay, fine, I'm going to go do a penance towards Shambhu. So he is now sitting there and doing a penance towards Shambhu. And he's continuing to pray, and years are passing. And now 1,000 years have passed. And those 1,000 years are not human years, 1,000 years of divine years. That means it's even longer than 1,000 human years. So now that's passed. And slowly there is an anthill that's forming around him. And out of the, in the anthill, now there are leeches that are coming and they're sucking his blood. And then slowly there are worms that are coming in and they're all eating his flesh. So now Sage Shilada is just being tortured by all these worms, insects, everything that's coming his way. But no matter what happens, Sage Shilada is completely focused on his meditation and he's only thinking about Shambhu, and he is doing this penance. So now 1,000 years have passed and Shambhu was very happy with the devotion of Sage Shilada. And therefore, Shambhu appeared. So in this particular case, that Shambhu is Sa Amba. So Shiva with Parvati, both of them, they appeared. And then Sage Shilada was very happy to see them both. Obviously, that's a sight to behold. So then he asked, Shambhu asked, what do you want? What is the boon that you want? I'm very happy with your penance. So then Sage Shilada said, I want a son who is a Ayonija, who's not born from a womb. I just want him to manifest because I owe this debt to my father and I do not want for my father to feel like he won't have a place in the heaven. So immediately Shambhu said, okay, I will bless you with that. And he said, you will get a amsa of mine and, you will get a son. And so Sage Shilada was really very happy. He thanked Shambhu and then he went off to his ashramam. And when he went to his ashramam, usually in the place where he conducts all the rituals, he saw that there was a baby. And as soon as he lifted this baby, the baby had such a glow and tejas. And it was as if he was holding Shambhu himself in his hand, that it was filling him with joy. There was a serenity, and obviously he was happy that he got the son, and therefore now he's able to take care of his father's debt. But at the same time, this particular baby had such a presence and tejas that was giving him so much joy. And therefore, Sage Shilada thought about the name, and immediately he named him Nandi or Nandin. So Nandi means one who gives you delight, one who gives you joy. So he is like Shambhu in that he is the source of joy. He is one who can create happiness. So he called him Nandi. So now Sage Shilada is extremely attached to Nandi, and it is this baby that drives everything for him, and he taught him everything that's possible. By the time Nandi was 5 years old, he had learnt everything there is to learn about Vedas, Smriti, Purana, whatever there is to learn. He was an ocean of knowledge and he was glowing with that knowledge. As it is, he was very, that aura was there, and then now with knowledge, he's glistening. So anybody who looks at him will get this wise man who is very powerful, who's also full of joy and delight. So he was like that. And then now, Nandi is around 7 years old, and at that time, two sages visit the ashrama of Shilada. They are Mitra and Varuna. So this Mitra and Varuna come in there, and they're staying with Sage Śālada for a while. So then Sage Śālada told Nandi, you take care of everything that Sage Mitra and Varuna need, so you please attend to them and make sure they're comfortable. So Nandi did everything, whatever they needed for their rituals, if they were going to take bath, taking care of things, everything was taken care of by Nandi, and Sage Mitra and Varuna were super happy. And then when their stay ended, Sage Śālada told Nandi, go take their blessings. They are great sages. It will be very helpful for you. So Nandi goes and falls at the feet of Sage Mitra and Varuna, and they bless him with all prosperity. They are saying, your fame will last forever, your knowledge will last forever, and all that. So then Nandi is very happy, and Sage Mitra and Varuna are leaving the ashram. And Sage Śālada noticed that they gave him so many blessings. They gave Nandi so many blessings, but not once did they say Dirghayushman Bhava. Dirghayushman Bhava means may you live forever, or may you have a long life. That's what it means. And they did not say that to Nandi. So Sage Śālada was a bit surprised. So he followed them. And he said, I noticed that you did not bless him to live long. Why did you not do that? Immediately, their face changed a little bit. So Sage Śālada realized there is something more to it. So he said, you have to please tell me exactly what it is. You please tell me. So then Sage Mitra and Varuna said, Śālada, don't feel bad. I know you're very attached to your son. But unfortunately, your son does not have more than 1 year to live. So that is it. After that, he won't live. And Sage Śālada was completely dejected. It's like crestfallen. And so he is so sad. And he comes inside the ashram, and Nandi is there, and he's saying, Father, what happened? Why are you looking so sad? I thought Sage Mitra and Varuna were very happy with all the services I offered, and they seem to be leaving with a happy face. Why are you now coming back so sad? And Sage Śālada could not hold it anymore. So he told Nandi, they told me that you won't live for more than 1 year. I can't imagine a life without you. And then at that time, Nandi said, no, you always told me to believe in Shambhu. And Shambhu is someone who creates happiness. And therefore, he will never create a situation like this. You yourself told me it was with his blessing that I was born. So there is no way that anything will happen to me. You should believe in Shambhu. But Sage Śālada is attached to his son. And therefore, all these words don't work for him. Even though he's a great sage, even though he is very wise and all that, this is not enough for him. So he's very sad. And therefore, Nandi decides to go do a penance towards Shambhu so that, his father's worry can be erased. And therefore, Nandi goes and gets into a river, and halfway through the river, until the river reaches his waist, he's standing there, and he is now doing a penance towards Shiva and Shambhu. And we all know Shambhu is very generous, but it's not easy to please him. You have to show that you are dedicated and you are completely focused on him. So if there is sincerity in the devotion, then he is easily pleased. How many ever years that it takes for us to demonstrate that is how long somebody has to do that penance. And here Nandi is someone who is extremely sincere, and therefore within a very short time, Shiva was very pleased, and Shiva appeared along with Parvati. Both of them appeared together, and then they looked at Nandi, and Nandi was spellbound looking at Shiva and Parvati. It was like he can't even remember what it is that he stood in the river for. And so then Shiva asked him, Nandi, what is it that you're praying for? And at that time, Nandi said, my father is very worried, and he thinks that, I have only 1 more year to live. And I wanted to make sure that he does not feel sad and he can become happy again. And that's why I was doing this penance. At that time, Shiva said, you know what, you were born with my blessing. So there is no death for you, and you will never grow old. You will always be a young guy who's all, very agile and active and energetic and all that. So there is no death for you, and your body will forever look like a youth. So you will not be able to have any death. So you have no fear from there. So then Nandi was very happy. And then Shiva asked, okay, you've done this penance. Tell me, what do you want? Let me give you a boon. And then at that time, Nandi said, Shiva, looking at you, I want to be with you forever. I don't want to leave you ever, and I want to stay beside you all the time. Please grant me a boon like that. And Shiva was very happy to hear that. So immediately Shiva said, fine, you will stay with me always, and you will be my Vahana. And therefore Shiva took the lotus garland that he was wearing, and then he put it on Nandi, and he also tied a bell around Nandi. So Nandi is capable of taking any form that he likes, and in this particular case he took the form of a bull. And then Shiva looked towards Parvati and he said, Parvati, I'm thinking to make Nandi the chief of all the Ganas. What do you think? And then Parvati was very happy. She said, you know what? Nandi is my son. So you make him the chief of Ganas. I'm totally in support of that. So then Shiva got a crown made by Vishwakarma, and then Shiva himself crowned Nandi as the chief of all the Ganas. And then as soon as Shiva thought about those Ganas, the Shambhu thought about it, then immediately all the Ganas came and they all hailed Nandi as their leader. So as we all know, Nandi is always with Shiva. There is nobody who will go disturb Shiva when he is doing a penance. And everybody knows what happens when Shiva gets upset and when his penance is impacted. He burnt Manmada. But Nandi is the only one who can reach Shiva. And that's why if you see in all the Shiva temples, there will definitely be Nandi. And Nandi is always looking at Shiva. And often it is said that you're not supposed to worship Shiva by going between Shiva and Nandi. You can go close to Nandi and worship. And many people tend to look at Shiva through the two horns of Nandi. Shrunga Darshanam is something that's a very common thing. And in the Pradosham time, it is said that if you go whisper in the ears of Nandi, then he will make sure our wishes are conveyed to Shiva. So Nandi, just as his name suggests, he is a source of delight, or he is a source of joy, and he always wants to make others happy. And that's what he conveys to. And also we've seen in all the temples, Nandi will actually be sitting in front of Shiva. And if you look at that particular posture, it is not like a relaxed sitting. It is relaxed, but at the same time it's alert. So Nandi is extremely attentive towards Shiva. Anytime Shiva needs to go, he is the Vahana, right? So that's why he'll be ready. Anytime Shiva wants to call, Nandi will be ready. But we also called Nandi as Nandikeshvara. So Nandi is someone who's so focused on Shiva that he imbibed the qualities of Shiva, and therefore he became Ishvara himself. So Nandi and Shambhu are no different. They are one and the same. And that came because of the ability of Nandi to pay attention, to meditate upon Shiva. And this is where there is a subtle difference between prayer and meditation. Prayer means us asking to the God what we want. Us talking to the God is prayer. But listening to what God has to say is called as meditation. And when we stop all this chatter and we start listening to what God has to say, or what the will of the God, aligning to the will of the God, then we become aligned with the will of Devi, and therefore we can reach the path of happiness. And that's what Nandikeshvara actually models. It's very similar to the Mohini that we said. Mohini, Vishnu was so aligned with Devi, was praying towards Devi for help, that he became the Devi, he became Mohini. Similarly, Nandi is so aligned towards Shiva that he became Nandikeshvara. So it is very similar there. And Nandi obviously is someone who can take many different forms. And there is another literal meaning of Śambhumohinī, which means that Parvati chants Shiva. And there are so many tantras where you can see how much Shiva cannot be without Parvati. And there are also, even in Saundarya Lahari, it says, without Shakti, Shiva cannot even move, right? So that's how Shiva is so much into Shakti. And obviously Shakti equally. So Śambhumohinī, you can think of it as she's one who charms Shiva, and otherwise you can also think of it as one who's charmed by Shiva. So Shiva and Parvati are such a good couple that they are literally made for each other. So they complete the two halves exactly. But here is a story related to Śambhumohinī in the literal sense. So once Shiva was telling to Parvati about all the Vedas. So he was sharing all that. And Parvati was not paying attention and she was a bit distracted. And Shiva got very upset and he said, "You know what? You did not pay attention. You're acting like you're not a knowledgeable woman at all. So now I curse you to become a fisherwoman." Because in those days, fisherwomen did not study or anything, and their life was all about what was happening in the sea. So he cursed her to become a fisherwoman. And he said, you have to pray, and then I'll come and marry you. So Parvati now is born as a fisherwoman somewhere near Madurai, and her name is Kayarkanni. So she is the daughter of the head of the fisherman tribe. And obviously, as the daughter of the chief of the tribe, she is someone who is adored by everybody. She grows up and she's now this beautiful princess, if you will. Shiva, on the other hand, cursed her and asked her to go to be born in the earth, but he is not able to be without her and he's feeling really miserable. And we also know in the Kanchipuram, the Ekamranatha, even there, if you see, when Parvati was doing all this penance, Shiva could not, she was doing the Manmada mantra and Shiva was feeling the tapam was going so much. And that's why he asked Ganga to go and make her stop. So Shiva is someone who could not stay without her. So he was getting very dejected and he was missing Parvati. So he was so upset there, or sitting there as if, lovelorn and sad. And Nandi saw all of that and he realized that Shiva was missing Parvati. So he had to do something so that he can go get Parvati back quickly. So what Nandi did is Nandi took the form of a whale. And Nandi went into the same sea close to which Kayarkanni, Parvati, was there. And then now he started to create chaos. So if the fishermen put the nets in the nets to catch the fish, the whale would come and bite it all off. Or the boats were, being tossed about because of the whale. And so everybody was so scared to go in there, and this had become a big problem. Obviously, they all went to the head of the tribe and they all asked for help. So they all tried, going and trying to fight or catch this whale. No matter what they did, they could not catch this whale. So finally, the fisherman, the head of that fisherman group, he said, whoever catches this whale will get to marry my daughter. So at this time, Shiva makes an entrance, and so he comes as a fisherman and he confirms, if I catch this whale, will you give me your daughter? And then he says, definitely. And so then Shiva goes and fights with this whale, which is none other than Nandi. And therefore, he is captured. Nandi is captured by Shiva. And then Shiva marries Kayarkanni, and both of them give the blessings to the fisherman tribe as Shiva and Parvati, as Shambhu, Sa Amba. So this is a story about where Shiva was lovelorn because he was fascinated by Parvati, and when she was away, and Nandi actually helped them come together. So the most important quality all of us have to take away from Nandi is that his ability to be completely focused on his object of devotion, constantly paying attention to that. And in fact, bhakti means that. Bhakti means staying continuously focused on that object to the extent that we start to emulate or we become one. And that is also the whole intent of Lalita Sahasranama. The whole chanting, the idea of this chanting is to find that Lalita reflected within ourselves. So just like Nandikeshwara, it is our job to find that Lalita or become one with her, and therefore reach that high enlightened state. Obviously, as normal people, for us, enlightenment is a very far away and it's a long path. But the more we start to imbibe the qualities of Lalitha, just very simple thing, she is avyaja karunamurti, so the compassion, and that is something that's possible, not drawing small circles and being able to extend our compassion towards a little bit outside of our circle, or only speaking good words, right? And just to take the words of Bambi, in Bambi they'll say, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all, just saying only kind words. Those are all things that we can emulate, and Lalitha has so many good qualities. Even if we take about 1/10 of it, or not even 1/10, iota of it, will still become better versions of ourselves. So that is what Śambhumohinī represents. And the more we show our devotion towards Lalitha, she will infatuate us with her thoughts and therefore lead us to the source of happiness. That's all for today. Thank you.